Resuming debate, the Honourable Member for Davenport.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I will be very happy to be sharing my time with the very honourable member for Vaughan Woodbridge. Madam Speaker, I'm very pleased to join in today's debate on the issue of higher cost of living. It's an issue that's top of mind for our federal government and also top of mind for the residents of my riding of Davenport. It is also the top economic challenge facing our country right now. We've been speaking with Canadians and we know the real uncertainty that they are feeling today. First, we have experienced a once-in-a-generation pandemic. We turned the Canadian economy off, and then we turned it back on again. And then Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine, and now we're dealing with inflation. All of these are related, of course. Global inflation is not created by the decisions of any one government alone. No global inflation has been created by the combined aftershocks of 2.5 years of a historic tumult. Fortunately, Canada is faring better than most other G7 countries in these very difficult times. But that reality doesn't change the impact it's having on Canadians when they're looking at their grocery bills or their gas receipts. Our federal government knows how challenging these past several months have been. And while inflation is down to 6.9% from a peak of 8.1% in June, it is still too high. And it is also no comfort, Madam Speaker, that Canada's inflation is one of the lowest of all G7 countries. Affordability and covering the cost of everyday living, it will continue to be a top issue. It will continue to be a difficult time for a lot of Canadians, for our friends, for our families, and for our neighbours. Our economy will slow, the same as economies around the world, as central banks continue to act to tackle inflation, as we heard from the Bank of Canada yesterday. There will be people whose mortgage payments are rising. Businesses will no longer be booming in the same way it has been since we left our homes after the COVID lockdowns and went back out into the world. Our unemployment rate will still be low, but it won't be its record low. We know that Canadians are worried about this, about higher costs of living, and they're also wondering, Madam Speaker, when it will all end. And for the Canadians who need it the most vulnerable, those who feel the bite of rising prices most acutely, our federal government is there with the measures in our affordability plan right now, this year. Our affordability plan has been providing up to $12.1 billion in new supports throughout this year, with many measures continuing after this year to help make life more affordable for millions of Canadians. So let me go through some of those measures, Madam Speaker. We've doubled the GST credits for 6 months, which is providing $2.5 billion in additional targeted support to roughly 11 million individuals and families who already receive the tax credit, including more than half of Canadian seniors. Many received this additional payment last month. The second thing we're doing is enhancing the Canada Worker Benefit to put up to an additional $2,400 into the pockets of low and modest income families starting already this year. We've also increased on a permanent basis the old age security by 10% for seniors over 75, and that began in July, which increased benefits to more than 3 million seniors and provides more than $800 additional dollars in the first year to full pensioners. In addition, we have a $500 payment this year to 1.8 million Canadian low-income renters who are struggling with the cost of housing through a one-time top-up to the Canada Housing Benefit. We're also, Madam Speaker, cutting regulated childcare fees by an average of 50% by the end of this year. And I'm delighted that we've introduced Bill C-35 legislation that will protect the access to affordable, inclusive, high-quality learning and childcare for now and ongoing. This legislation will make it harder for any future government to cancel or cut any child care in the future. And so I'm very happy that is happening and is currently underway, Madam Speaker. What else are we doing? We are providing dental care for Canadians without dental insurance who are in households of under $90,000 and who have children under the age of 12. They're getting up to $650 this year, and they're getting up to $650 next year. What else are we doing? We're indexing to inflation the benefits, including the Canada Child Benefit, the GST credit, the Canada Pension Plan, the Old Age Security, and the Guaranteed Income Supplement. All of these measures means that Canadians are getting more money back in their pockets when they need it most. And when it comes to pollution pricing, we know that a national price on pollution is the most effective and least costly way of reducing greenhouse gas emissions and putting money back into the pockets of most Canadians. Madam Speaker, I'd like to take a moment to further highlight two other measures in this plan in more detail. First, in the Fall Economic Statement, we set out a plan to further improve the Canada Workers' Benefit, in addition to already expanding and enhancing it in the Budget 2021 to reach up to 3 million Canadians who do important jobs but don't get paid very much. The federal government currently delivers the Canadian Workers' Benefit through tax returns. So that means that eligible Canadians need to wait until the tax year is over to receive the money they have already earned. But, Madam Speaker, bills need to be paid throughout the year. And so that's why, in the Fall Economic Statement, we set out a plan to further improve the Canada Worker Benefit. With the changes proposed in the Fall Statement, the Canada Worker Benefit will reach up to 1.2 million additional hardworking, low and modest income Canadians through advance payments that would be made in July, October, and January, based on the worker's income in the previous year. So this means that in total, the Canada Workers' Benefit will top up the income of up to 4.2 million Canadians, and they're among the lowest paid Canadians because no one who works 40 hours a week should have to worry about paying the bills or putting food on the table. The second measure I would like to underscore is our federal government's investments to support early learning and childcare. Childcare, Madam Speaker, is not just a social policy, it is an economic policy too. Affordable, high-quality childcare will grow our economy. It will help give every Canadian child the best start in life and will allow more women to enter into the workforce. I call this policy a game changer. In fact, just last week, Madam Speaker, Statistics Canada reported that almost 82% of women in their prime working years had jobs in November, the most on record, as our implementation of the Canada-wide early learning and childcare system continues to close long-standing gender gaps in conjunction with a tight labor market. And at a time when the cost of living is top of mind for so many, the investments we have made are having a real, tangible impact on what is often one of the biggest monthly expenses for a family. I will tell you, Madam Speaker, it is very popular among my residents in my riding of Davenport. They love this National Child Care Plan. They're absolutely using it, and they very much appreciate the additional dollars, especially during months like December when there are some additional family gatherings and they need a little bit of additional dollars. Madam Speaker, in Budget 2021, our federal government has made historic investments of $30 billion over 5 years to build a Canada-wide early learning and childcare system. In less than a year, we reached agreements with all 13 provinces and territories. And as I mentioned earlier, by the end of this year, regulated childcare fees will be reduced by an average of 50% by 2025-2026. Childcare fees will average $10 a day by then for all regulated childcare spaces from coast to coast to coast. Today, that means parents across British Columbia can now save on average up to $550 more per month for each child they have in licensed childcare, representing an additional of up to $6,600 in annual savings. This is on top of the existing savings of up to $350 per month introduced by the Child Care BC Plan in 2018 for a total of almost $900 of savings per month on average. As we continue to work with provinces and territories on the implementation of agreements, we're also creating an early learning and childcare infrastructure fund. Through an investment of $625 million, this fund will enable provinces and territories to make additional childcare investments, including the building of new facilities, all with the goal of making high-quality childcare across Canada more accessible and more affordable. Madam Speaker, as my time comes to a close, when it comes to ensuring Canadians will get through this challenging economic time, we're providing inflation relief through our affordability plan to Canadians who need it the most vulnerable, who are most exposed to inflation. We, of course, cannot support every single Canadian the same way we did the emergency measures at the height of the pandemic. To do so would only make inflation worse and more persistent. But saying that, I want to say that we have been responsible in terms of our spending, we are being compassionate, and we're going to continue to have the backs of Canadians who need it the most, both now and moving forward. Thank you so much, Madam Speaker.